My fingertips went numb as I stared at the bank statement on my screen. The numbers couldn't be right. $347,650 withdrawn in systematic increments over the past 8 months, all from grandmother's retirement account, all authorized with her power of attorney signature that looked nothing like her shaky handwriting, all transferred to an account I recognized immediately, my mother's. The office around me continued its mundane Monday morning rhythm, phones ringing, keyboards clicking, coffee brewing. Meanwhile, my world imploded in perfect silence. I magnified the signature card on my second monitor, comparing the flowing script against the birthday cards grandmother had sent me. The painful truth crystallized. My own mother had been systematically draining her elderly mother's accounts while telling everyone I was the one neglecting grandmother's care. The bank's fluorescent lights suddenly seemed too bright, casting harsh shadows across the document that confirmed what I'd suspected for months. I'd taken the part-time teller job specifically to access these records after finding grandmother eating crackers for dinner, because Margaret said the grocery money was coming tomorrow. "You okay, Olivia? You look like you've seen a ghost." My supervisor Damon paused at my desk, concern etched across his face. I quickly minimized the screen. "Fine, just checking something for a client." "My name is Olivia. I'm 26 and a medical school candidate. This is the story of how I exposed the thief who called herself my mother." The signs had been there for months. Grandmother's unpaid medical bills arriving at my apartment. Her utilities shut off despite my mother's assurances that everything was handled. The mysterious weekend trips my parents took while claiming financial hardship. But seeing the actual transactions, the sheer magnitude of the theft, made my stomach clench with a rage so pure it felt like fire in my veins. I'd spent 3 years working multiple jobs, part-time at this bank, weekends as an EMT, nights researching for a medical professor, all while my mother told everyone I was too selfish to contribute to grandmother's care. I'd been paying for medications, groceries, and utilities from my meager savings while my mother renovated her kitchen with what I now knew was grandmother's retirement money. The same retirement fund that my grandfather had built over 50 years of working at the steel mill. The same money that was supposed to keep grandmother comfortable in her final years. The same account my mother had legal access to as her caretaker, a role she'd fought for in court, claiming I was too irresponsible to handle grandmother's affairs. For 2 weeks, I meticulously documented everything, printing transaction histories, photographing signatures, recording dates that match perfectly with my parents' extravagant purchases. A new Mercedes the day after a $45,000 withdrawal. European cruise tickets purchased hours after $30,000 disappeared from grandmother's account. Brazilian marble countertops installed the same week $22,000 vanished. I kept the evidence in a locked filing cabinet at my apartment, where grandmother had been staying weekends when my mother claimed to be giving me quality time with her, but was actually leaving town. Each time grandmother arrived with thinner arms, wearing the same outdated clothes, my determination solidified. The Harvard Medical School acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday, full scholarship based on academic excellence and demonstrated resilience. I slipped it into the manila folder with the bank statements, adding it to my arsenal not out of pride but as evidence against my mother's favorite narrative, that I was the family disappointment, the underachiever who would never amount to anything. Christmas dinner was my mother's annual performance, the stage where she most enjoyed demonstrating her power over me. 22 relatives gathered at her newly renovated home, admiring the imported fixtures and custom cabinetry that I now knew had cost exactly $37,482 of grandmother's money. "We're ashamed of you. Utterly, completely ashamed of what you've become," my mother announced over dessert, her voice dripping with theatrical disappointment. She threw her head back and laughed like she'd just delivered the punchline to the world's funniest joke. Honestly, at your age, I was already established in my career. What do you have to show for yourself? A part-time bank job? The dining room fell silent. My younger sister Bethany smirked behind her wine glass, while my brother Lucas suddenly found his mashed potatoes fascinating. The Harvard acceptance letter felt heavy in my pocket. Not as heavy as the evidence of fraud I'd brought with me, but still a weight pressing against my chest. "Did you hear me, Olivia?" Mom continued, her voice sharpening with contempt. Or are you too busy daydreaming about your pathetic little life to pay attention? I carefully set down my fork, my hands surprisingly steady despite the rage building in my chest. 4 years I'd endured these dinners, these public humiliations, these calculated cruelties. But tonight was different. Tonight I had nothing left to lose. I heard you, Mom, I said quietly, reaching into my bag. And you're right. You should be ashamed. She leaned back, satisfied, ready to continue her performance. Finally, some self-awareness. You should be ashamed that you've been stealing from grandmother's estate for the past 3 years. The words hung in the air like icicles ready to fall. Mom's laughter died in her throat, her face cycling from red to white to gray in seconds. What did you just say? Dad spoke for the first time, his fork clattering to his plate. I pulled out the manila folder. Should we start with the forged signatures on the withdrawal slips? Or would you prefer to discuss why grandmother's been living on bologna sandwiches while you renovated your kitchen with Brazilian marble? How dare you? Mom started to rise. Sit down, Patricia. Grandmother's voice cut through the room like a blade. She'd been quiet all evening, but now her eyes were sharp as flint. Let her speak. Everyone turned to look at grandmother, who'd been sitting at the far end of the table, supposedly too senile to follow conversations anymore. Another one of Mom's lies. I work at the bank, I said, opening the folder. The same bank where Mom has power of attorney over grandmother's accounts. Imagine my surprise when I reviewed the transaction history. This is ridiculous, Mom sputtered. I would never. November 15th, $45,000 withdrawn. I read from the statement. Same day you bought the Mercedes, December 3rd, $30,000. That's when you and Dad took that cruise to Europe. Should I continue? Uncle Robert, Mom's brother, snatched the papers from my hands. His face darkened as he read. Patricia, these are Mother's accounts. This shows over $200,000 in the past year alone. It's all legal, Mom shrieked. I have power of attorney. Mother needs care, and care costs money. I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call dumping her at my apartment every weekend while you go shopping? Is that what you call forgetting her medications because you spent the money on your book club trips? You're lying, Bethany chimed in, but her voice wavered. Am I? I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photos I'd taken. Here's grandmother's empty refrigerator from last month. Here's the past due notice for her electricity bill. Here's the eviction warning for her apartment, the one Mom told everyone was paid off. You went through my things? Mom's voice had gone shrill. No, I went through grandmother's things when she called me crying because she had no food and no heat in December. I turned to the rest of the family. Did any of you know she's been sleeping on my couch for the past 6 months because Mom rented out her apartment on Airbnb? Gasps erupted around the table. Aunt Jennifer covered her mouth in horror. Uncle Robert's face had turned purple with rage. Mom, Lucas said slowly, you told us Olivia refused to help with grandmother. You said she was too selfish. Because that's what she does, I interrupted. She makes me the villain while she commits elder abuse and fraud. 3 jobs, that's how many I work. Not because I'm a failure, but because I'm supporting grandmother and trying to save for medical school. Medical school? Dad laughed harshly. You're a bank teller. Part-time bank teller, I corrected, pulling out the Harvard acceptance letter. Part-time EMT, weekend research assistant, all to pay for grandmother's care and save for tuition. But sure, tell everyone how I'm the family disappointment. Mom snatched the letter, her hands shaking. As she read it, tears began streaming down her face. You got into Harvard, full scholarship for academic excellence. I said. Turns out, when you're not spending your energy being someone's emotional punching bag, you can actually accomplish things. But you never said, Bethany stammered. When would I have said it? During the part where Mom calls me a failure? Or when she's telling everyone I'm an embarrassment? Or maybe when she's laughing about how I'll never amount to anything? Grandmother stood up slowly, using her cane for support. I knew, she said quietly. Olivia told me everything when I started staying with her on weekends. She showed me the Harvard letter the day it arrived, when she picked me up from my apartment. She looked directly at my mother. She's been protecting me, caring for me, loving me, while my own daughter robbed me blind. Mother, you don't understand, Mom began. I understand perfectly, Grandmother snapped. I've been playing along with your senile old woman act because Olivia asked me to. She wanted to gather enough evidence to stop you without destroying the family, but you've destroyed it yourself. I pulled out more documents. These are the bank records going back 3 years. Every transaction, every forged check, every lie. My supervisor at the bank helped me compile them. We were going to handle this privately, but since you want to publicly shame me, let's make it all public. Please, Mom whispered, tears flowing freely now. Please don't do this. Like how I begged you not to humiliate me at every family gathering? I asked. Like how Grandmother begged you to let her stay in her own home. Like how I begged you to just once, be proud of me. We are proud, Dad started. No, I cut him off. You're proud of Bethany for marrying Rich. You're proud of Lucas for joining your law firm. But me, the daughter who survived your neglect, who built herself from nothing, who's going to Harvard Medical School while caring for the grandmother you abandoned. I'm the shame of the family. Uncle Robert had been reading through the documents, his expression growing darker with each page. Patricia, this is grand larceny. This is federal fraud. You could go to prison for this. Mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing hysterically. I didn't. We needed the money. William's business was failing. So you stole from your mother? Aunt Jennifer asked, disgusted. And blamed Olivia for not helping. She was always so independent, Mom wailed. So cold. She never needed us. I needed you every day, I said quietly. I needed parents who loved me. I needed a mother who didn't see me as competition. I needed a family that celebrated my victories instead of resenting them. But you were too wrapped up in your own insecurities to see that. What happens now? Lucas asked, looking between me and Grandmother. Now I move in with Olivia permanently, Grandmother announced. She's already set up a beautiful room for me. As for the stolen money, she looked at Mom with steel in her eyes. You have 2 choices. Return every penny within 30 days or Olivia and I press charges. Mother, Mom gasped. You're no daughter of mine, Grandmother said coldly. Olivia has been more of a daughter to me than you ever were. She sacrificed her youth to care for me while you spent my money on yourself. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. I'm taking Grandmother home. To our home. The rest of you can finish dinner and decide if you still want to associate with someone who steals from the elderly. Olivia, wait, Bethany called out. I didn't know. Mom always said you were jealous of us, that you refused to help. And you never once questioned it, I said. Never once wondered why I worked 3 jobs if I was so selfish. Never once asked for my side of the story. That's on you. As I helped Grandmother gather her things, Mom's sobs grew louder. How could you do this to me? At Christmas, in front of everyone. I paused at the doorway, looking back at the woman who'd given birth to me, but never bothered to mother me. You asked why I should be ashamed of myself. I gave you the answer. You should be ashamed that your daughter had to become the parent you never were, that she had to protect her grandmother from her own mother's greed, that she achieved everything she has despite your cruelty, not because of your support. I'm sorry, Mom cried. I'm so sorry. No, I said firmly. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. As grandmother and I walked to the door, family members began choosing sides. Some surrounded Mom, offering comfort. Others came to us expressing shock and support. Uncle Robert promised to help us recover the stolen funds. Aunt Jennifer hugged me and whispered that she'd always wondered why Mom's stories about me didn't match what she observed. I helped grandmother into my car, making sure she was comfortable before I got in on the driver's side. My practical sedan was nothing like my parents' new Mercedes, but it was paid for and reliable. In the car, grandmother took my hand. "You know, dear, I'm not sorry this happened." "Grandmother." "Oh, not the theft," she clarified, "but the revelation. You've been carrying this burden alone for too long. Now the truth is out and you're free." "She'll never forgive me," I said, surprised to find I was crying. "Do you need her forgiveness?" grandmother asked gently. "Or do you need to forgive yourself for not being the daughter she wanted?" I thought about it as we drove home. Our home, the small apartment I'd worked so hard to maintain. I think I need to forgive myself for trying so hard to earn love that was never available. "Harvard will be lucky to have you," grandmother said. "As am I. You saved my life, Olivia, literally and figuratively." "You saved mine too," I admitted. Having someone who believed in me, who saw my worth, that kept me going. My phone buzzed with messages from family members, some apologizing, some asking questions, some taking Mom's side. I turned it off. "No regrets?" grandmother asked. "One," I said. I wish I'd stood up for myself sooner, but maybe I needed to reach this point. Accepted to Harvard, financially stable enough to support us both, emotionally ready to let go. "Your mother was wrong about one thing," grandmother said as we pulled into our apartment complex. "She said she was ashamed of you. But the truth is, she's ashamed of herself. You reflect everything she could have been if she'd chosen love over greed, support over sabotage, family over facade." That Christmas dinner marked the end of something. The end of seeking approval from people incapable of giving it. The end of accepting shame that was never mine to carry. The end of sacrificing my truth for family harmony. But it also marked a beginning. The beginning of my medical career. The beginning of honest relationships with family members who chose truth over comfort. The beginning of a life where love wasn't something to be earned through suffering, but something freely given and received. The following month, true to Uncle Robert's promise, my mother returned every penny of the stolen money. Though she and my father avoided criminal charges due to the full restitution, they faced serious consequences nonetheless. The court officially revoked Mom's power of attorney, and my parents' reputation in the family was irreparably damaged. Their marriage didn't survive the scandal. Dad filed for divorce 3 months later when he discovered Mom had been hiding additional financial problems from him. Mom's tears that night weren't just about being exposed or facing consequences. They were the tears of someone realizing they'd pushed away the very person who would have moved mountains for their love. The daughter who worked 3 jobs to care for the grandmother they'd abandoned. The daughter who got into Harvard despite their discouragement. The daughter who told the truth when everyone else was content with lies. She was crying because in trying to shame me, she'd revealed her own shame. And unlike her performative emotions, those tears were real. As grandmother and I decorated our small Christmas tree that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. The shame had never been mine to carry. And now, finally, I'd given it back to where it belonged. My relationship with my siblings has slowly begun to heal. Bethany visits us every other Sunday, and Lucas calls weekly to check in. They're learning who I really am, not the caricature our mother painted. We're building something new, something based on truth rather than manipulation. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. 0 cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.